US's top diplomat had the word hypocrisy thrown in his face during a visit to Hungary, where he warned his host of China and Russia. What did he say or do to incite such criticism? And the ROK and DPRK are going for diplomatic gold with their joint bid to co-host the 2032 Summer Olympics. But what hurdles might stand in the way? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. The U.S. Secretary of State got a slap in the face, or two rather, during his first stop on a charm offensive in Europe. While in Hungary in Eastern Europe, Mike Pompeo warned during a joint presser with his Hungarian counterpart that Hungary's relationship with China and Russia would endanger its ties with the U.S. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto rebuked him on the spot, calling the West hypocritical when it comes to these two countries. He said the world is not going to be a better place if some countries spend their time intervening in the internal political affairs of other countries. China on Tuesday also criticized Pompeo's speech as unjust and immoral and nothing like how a major country is supposed to act. Exactly how did Pompeo get himself in such an embarrassing situation? Does the U.S. have the right to dictate how other countries work with China or Russia? Joining me for the discussion in the Beijing studio is Professor Cui Hongjian, Director of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. From Moscow, Pavel Felgenhauer, a Russian political and defense analyst. And from Washington, D.C., James Early, CEO of Stansberry China. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. Before we start the discussion, let's first play out some of what the Hungarian foreign minister said in reaction to Mr. Pompeo's attack on China.
If you look at our cooperation with China, we represent 1.2% of the trade between the European Union and the People's Republic of China. If you look at that Chinese company, which is very often in the news nowadays regarding telecommunication, are they present in Hungary? Yes. Who are their major contractors? A German and a British company. So when it comes to China, I think hypocrisy should be left finally behind.
So when it comes to China, hypocrisy should be left finally behind. Basically, he was reacting to what U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said about countries such as China is trying to gain a bridgehead in Hungary and trying to erode freedom in Eastern Europe, and that there is an experience of states in the Asia-Pacific region that shows that Beijing's handshake sometimes comes with strings that will leave Hungary indebted both economically and politically. Professor Cui, let me go to you first. Exactly what is U.S. Secretary of State Pompeo trying to do here? Because he's not just saying this for the first time. He's not just saying this to Hungary. He has said it to many countries. He said it in Africa. He said it in Slovakia. Earlier, he also talked about this in Panama and Latin America. What kind of message is he trying to spread?
As we know, this visit by Mr. Pompeo in Eastern European countries, I think he has a lot of the purposes to do in this visit. For example, how could the United States to have some more influence or even more some pressures against over the Eastern European countries on some issues, especially in the interests of the United States. For example, how about this Iran nuclear issue, or how about this trade issue between US and EU, and of course, how about relations between China, Russia with these Eastern European countries. But I think what Mr. Pompeo and the United States want to do now in Eastern Europe is try to find some more instruments for its policy to give some containment against China and Russia. But of course, I think maybe another major effect of this visit by Mr. Pompeo, I think, would be towards the European Union, because as we know, Eastern European countries used to be regarded as a weak point of the European Union, especially for United States to do something more, especially now in the background of the United States had a lot of differences with some Western European countries.
Why is he trying to warn Eastern European countries of the danger, of the potential risk of doing business with China? He said that Beijing's handshake sometimes comes with strings that leave countries indebted both economic and politically. How much ground is there? The Chinese Foreign Ministry called it trumped up threats and trumped up charges and China threat theories. Why is the U.S. talking like this to its allies?
We can find out a change for the mindset or logic behind those words from United States, from Mr. Pompeo, on his policy and also his attitude towards these relations, especially bilateral relations, a kind of normal bilateral relations between China and some Eastern European countries. Also, in the past or even in the current situation, most of the European countries in Eastern Europe is try to give some healthy relations with China. For example, when it faces some economic and trade issue, we try to find the logic in the interest of both sides, and we just find out some rule-based framework to do something. But now United States is trying to change this framework to have some more security or even political, ideological, issues to, squeeze, I think, the existence of China from Eastern European countries.
Okay. Mr. Early, let me go to you as you come, you are joining us from the United States. I want to know your take on this spat that came out of Budapest and also the hypocrisy. Do you think it was hypocrisy that the United States has demonstrated and has been exposed in the face of U.S.'s top diplomat, Mike Pompeo?
Well, good to be here. I'm going to start by saying I'm trying to underreact for now on both sides. I think there's an element of the U.S. feeling like it's been asleep at the wheel as far as these Eastern European countries and the One Belt, One Road countries as well, and it's sort of waking up and thinking, what do we do now? Meanwhile, China is sort of thinking, hey, we're growing, we're expanding our influence. How is this going to go? I think both sides under the covers are feeling this out more and are maybe less certain inside than they want to show outside. Outside, it's shaping up to be this, I don't want to say new Cold War, that would overstate it, but there's this drama, but I think inside there's a lot more uncertainty. The hypocrisy, I think that comes down to how the transaction is viewed. Certainly, if it's just country A buying telecommunications equipment from China and it's simply a trade deal, it would be great hypocrisy to criticize that. I think Pompeo is certainly not going in with that as his lead argument. He's saying, hey, look, this is what it seems like right now, but this is going to open the door to a lot of other things, Hungary, that you don't see later. I don't know that any of us right here can sit here and say we know what's going to happen 2, 3, 4 years down the road later on, but I think that's the topic.
Okay, basically, Mr. Early, Mr. Pompeo was asking Mr. Szijjarto, the Hungarian foreign minister, was saying actually Hungary's trade with China is only 1.2% of the EU trade with China. So the United States shouldn't make it sound as if Hungary is selling itself to China. There is what he means by hypocrisy. The great majority of trade between China and Russia with European countries are happening between China and Russia and Western European countries, not these Eastern European countries. I think there is the point that Peter Szijjarto is wanting to make. And then you were talking about both sides overreacting. I do not know whether China is overreacting, because when you go around the world telling people to choose sides between either the United States or China and Russia, that seems to be inevitable to invite some very strong reaction from Russia or China. Let me go to Pavel Felgenhauer from Moscow. How is your reaction listening to the kind of comments made by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo?
Well, it should be understood that for Hungary, for the Hungarian strongman Viktor Orban, the main problem is not America. The main address of those criticism was Brussels and the European Commission and European Union. Because America is not imposing sanctions on Hungary, but Brussels is, and it's not about China, actually. So that's what they see as hypocrisy. Ideologically, Orban and Trump are very close. They're both nationalists. Trump is America first. Orban is Hungary first. But the problem with nationalists, they may be close ideologically, but their interests quite so often go into different directions. From Hungary, Pompeo is going to go to Poland, and there, of course, there's also a nationalistic government, also in problems with Brussels. But they are seeking American support against Russia. And Hungary is not. Hungary does not see Russia as a threat. They see Brussels more as a threat.
Okay.
And would want to maybe get American support against Brussels and not against Russia, and don't understand why they should not diverse to China their trade relationships when they have problems inside Europe. So that's why they got rather angrily responding to Pompeo's message.
Yeah. Let me also show to our viewers the soundbite from Peter Szijjarto about the hypocrisy concerning Russia.
And when it comes to Russia, I told the Secretary as well that there's an enormous hypocrisy and political correctness in the European political arena in this regard. Because look, it's not the Hungarian and it's not the Central European energy companies which are preparing and building Nord Stream 2 together with Gazprom.
Okay. Mr. Felgenhauer, what is your reaction to what he said about the enormous hypocrisy and political correctness in the European political arena here?
Well, it is that these Central European countries, at least some of them, and first of all Hungary, believe that the anti-kind of Russian rhetoric is used by the bigger European Western countries and the Euro Commission and the European Union to unjustly treat them and prevent them make good deals with Russia, which they believe are important economically. And they don't see any threat coming from there or from China. And they don't like to be bullied by the Euro Commission. Of course, they don't also like to be bullied by Washington. And again, maybe in Romania and in Poland, Pompeo's message would get much better ears because there they want to have American backing against Moscow. And Viktor Orban does not. So Mr. Pompeo apparently didn't do his homework well. For him, maybe Central Europe is more or less all the same, but it's really not.
Okay.
Nationalistic governments in all those countries, and many of them are nationalistic,
Okay.
they're building an alliance of them is like building a wall out of pebbles.
Okay, Mr. Early, let me go to you again. I think what China also has a problem with is that the U.S. are trying to drive a wedge between countries in the world and China, for instance, when they talk about the 16+1 format, under which China is trying to improve its economic and trade and overall relations with countries in Central and Eastern Europe. What is the point of U.S.'s top diplomat and also vice president going around and trying to pump up this China threat theory?
Well, I mean, I think the U.S. is looking at China rising and seeing some positive. I mean, for U.S. and China are huge trade partners. You know, we're friends much more than enemies, no matter what anyone says. I mean, that's my strong belief, and I've been doing business with China for a long time, and I want to say that clearly. But U.S. is still looking and saying, look, we've got Huawei, you know, coming out, and 5G, for example, is not just a transaction. 5G is an ecosystem. It's Internet of Things, everything connected. Okay. So it's something that's strategically important. And this is something that, from the U.S. perspective, just as an analyst, I'm saying this, this could be an avenue for China to come in with what's ostensibly a technology play that later becomes something with political influence. We certainly haven't seen that yet. I want to be very clear about that. But I think that's the U.S. argument, and that's the U.S. concern.
Okay.
And Pompeo is out there trying to suppress what he sees as a future threat.
Well, it is okay to express a potential concern of a future threat, but it is also another thing to make things sound as if it's an imminent threat, or anything that comes out of China, it seems at this moment, could pose some kind of security threat, either political or security, or even I don't know, maybe Chinese-made spoons can be a threat to some American people. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks to Professor Cui Hongjian, Director of European Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. From Moscow, Pavel Felgenhauer, Russian political and defense analyst. And from Washington, D.C., James Early, CEO of Stansberry China. You're watching The Point. We'll take a short break, and when I come back, the Korean Peninsula is taking sports diplomacy to a new level. How feasible is their bid to jointly host the 2032 Summer Olympics, and what hurdles would be ahead? Stay with us.